So, what is biological classification? We already discussed what exactly biological classification is. Okay, so basically, biological classification is the thing which related to the classifying the living organisms. We already discussed what is living, what exactly meant by living, and what are the factors that makes the that makes one organism to live. So what are the differentiating features of a living organism? What are the characteristic features? So we discussed all those things, and what the basic classification, that means how the living organisms are classified. So and what are the different types of classification? That means natural classification, artificial classification, and phylogenetic classification. We already discussed all these things. So today we are going to discuss the basic biological classification, how the living organisms are classified. So basically, classification is basically a systematic way of orderly arranging organisms into related groups. So based on the similarities, okay, based on the similarities and dissimilarities with the other related groups. If we classify organisms into related groups, then that is called biological classification. That is the orderly arranging organisms. Okay, so who is the first one to classify the living organisms? So here are some scientists. Aristotle basically is the first person who classified living organisms. So at his time, basically he only able to classify organisms into based on the simple factors. Okay, he didn't consider many factors. He didn't go by detailed study of organisms, but basically just by morphological differences, he is able to classify organisms into two groups. Okay, two groups. So he basically used simple morphological characters. Okay, only simple morphological characters. He classified plants into herbs if they are very short. Okay, based on the size of the plant. Okay, the criteria for his classification of plants is size: herbs, shrubs, and trees. So these are the three groups in plants, and he added in animals. He also classified animals based on the pigment. Okay, if the red blood, based on the color of the blood. Okay, so that is, if they contain red blood, they are grouped as one. Okay, and the animals which doesn't contain red blood, okay, without red blood. So these are the only factors. So basic level classification it is. So Aristotle classification is one of the type of artificial classification, because he didn't consider many factors. Only by simple morphological characters he would able to classify. Okay, so the next person who classified living organisms is the Carolus Linnaeus. So he introduced two kingdom system. So he named the groups that he classified as kingdoms, and he said he classified all living organisms into two groups, two kingdoms. This is two kingdom classification. One is plants and other is animals. Okay, kingdom Animalia, that is kingdom Plantae. So these are the two kingdoms that in his classification. So basically, what are the demerits? As coming back to the Aristotle classification, what is the demerit? Kind of only based on these things, based on the size, okay, and based on the color of the blood, he would able to classify. So many many organisms which are not related are comes under the same group in the Aristotle classification. So the same thing happened with Carolus Linnaeus classification, that is two kingdom classification. Okay. So what happened? What happened in the two kingdom classification? So in living world, living organisms, there are also some organisms called prokaryotes, which doesn't have nucleus, which are very primitive primary organisms. They will not comes under either plants or animals. So those kind of prokaryotes didn't get the place in his two kingdom classification. So that is one of the main demerit. Two kingdom classification system did not distinguish between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay, prokaryotes and eukaryotes are not differentiated. So the next is photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic forms are also not correctly placed. Okay, so though it is long used, it found to be inadequate, so it is no more in existence. So the next comes the five kingdom classification. Okay, this is five kingdom classification. Who proposed the five kingdom classification? That is the scientist named R.H. Whittaker. In the year of 1963, you need to remember all these things. Who proposed the two kingdom classification? Who proposed the this five kingdom classification? These are also important things to remember. So basically, R.H. Whittaker is the scientist. R.H. Whittaker is a scientist who proposed the five kingdom classification. So he classified living organisms into five classes. So what are the criteria for his classification? How did he classify organisms into five kingdoms? So basically, he considered some of the factors like what is the cell structure, whether it is prokaryote or eukaryote. What is the body organization? Okay, whether it is cellular level or tissue level. Okay, that kind of things. And what is the mode of nutrition? That means whether it is an autotroph or heterotroph. That means whether it is able to produce its own food or it should depend on the others for its food requirements. So based on all these factors, he classified these things. And mode of reproduction. How these organisms are reproducing, whether by sexual means or asexual means. Okay, in asexual means, if it is reproducing by asexual means, what are the type of its reproduction, whether it is binary fission or all these things are comes under his consideration. So this is one of the most popular still existing classification. Okay, he also considered phylogenetic relationships. That means how these organisms, all organisms are evolved. Okay, what are the five kingdoms? Okay, first one is Monera, Protista, fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. One moment. Okay. Animalia. So here, Monera, what are Monerans? Okay, basically the things he considered is, as I told you, the cell structure. So basically all in the image you can see this, okay? So here is the kingdom Monera. Monera contains all prokaryotic organisms, okay, bacteria. So Monera contains all bacteria. Okay, so all bacteria, prokaryotes, which doesn't have cell wall, which doesn't have proper nucleus. Okay, which doesn't have cellular organisms, which are very primitive, all are comes under this group called Monera. So next comes the Protista. Protista, this group, this kingdom is having, so comes under bacteria. Bacteria comes under this Monera. So Protista, what is Protista? All eukaryotes. It is basically eukaryotes. This kingdom Monera is example is bacteria. So here all are prokaryotes. Okay. So here under Protista, it contains eukaryotic organisms. So eukaryotes comes under this kingdom Protista. What kind of eukaryotes? Not all higher eukaryotes, but the unicellular. Unicellular. Only single cell. Their body is organized by one single cell. Okay. So these kind of maybe example you can give amoeba. So what is fungi? Kingdom fungi. Kingdom fungi consists of all fungi. That means these are heterotrophic organisms. Okay, these are eukaryotes only. But not unicellular. They vary from unicellular to, they also contain some of unicellular like yeast, but they also contain multicellular. Okay, multicellular. Then comes the Plantae. Plantae contains all plants. And Animalia kingdom contains all animals. So here plants are eukaryotes. Here the Animalia also contain eukaryotes. And what is the difference? Here all are multicellular. Here are also all multicellular. So basically the difference is here all plants are autotrophic. That means mode of nutrition is autotrophic. That means they can produce their own food. But here in kingdom Animalia, the eukaryotic multicellular organisms, which are higher at its complexity, but these are heterotrophs. Okay, so what are the other things? So here, these are prokaryotes, unicellular. Okay, all bacteria are prokaryotes, unicellular. Maybe here you can find some autotrophs and also some heterotrophs. And here under Protista, you can also find similar way, you can also find autotrophs and heterotrophs. Okay, but all fungi are heterotrophs and all animals also heterotrophs. So basically here under Monera, you can find the bacteria which are prokaryotes. Under Protista, you can find eukaryotes but are unicellular. Here from fungi onwards, you can see multicellular organisms. So fungi contains multicellular organisms, plant also contains multicellular organisms, Animalia also contains multicellular organisms. So what is the difference? Here in fungi, you can find some unicellular organisms as well, but in Animalia and Plantae, you cannot find any unicellular organisms. What is the unicellular fungi? So example for the unicellular fungi is the yeast. Okay, coming to the mode of nutrition. So in what way they are taking their food? So under kingdom Monera, in which the bacteria comes under. So in kingdom Monera, you can find autotrophs. Some bacteria can prepare their own food and some bacteria cannot. So basically, some are autotrophs and some are heterotrophs. So similar to the Protista, they also have some autotrophs and heterotrophs. But under fungi, you can find only heterotrophs and some are saprophytes. Here, what do you mean by saprophyte? You can also find some saprophytes. That means the organisms, the word is saprophyte. So saprophyte is the term used to relate the organism which cannot, which depends on the dead and decay material for their food. Okay, it degrades the dead and decaying material, and hence by it will be getting its nutrition. So that is called a saprophyte. And also under plants, you can only have photosynthetic autotrophs, and under Animalia, all these are heterotrophs. So what about the cell wall? Okay, the other factor we need to understand is the cell wall. Here, cell wall in Monera, they may contain cell wall, and in Protista, cell wall basically under in Monera, they contain cell wall. But what is the material? What is the material that made up the cell wall? So that is different. So basically, cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan. So here in Protista, here is also cell wall is present. In fungi also cell wall present, but the cell wall is here made up of chitin. So what is the component of cell wall in fungi? That is chitin. What is the component of cell wall present in Monera? That means bacteria, that is peptidoglycan. Sometimes some other components will also be there. Under plants, the cell wall is basically made up of cellulose. Okay. And Animalia doesn't have cell wall. So basically, the other factor, the other criteria for the classification is mode of, body organization. At what level body is organized? As we already discussed, unicellular. These are unicellular and multicellular also. But in plant and animalia, these are absolutely multicellular organisms, but the body organization at its tissue level. Okay, that means cells together form tissues. And here in animalia, okay, organ system is also present. That means we all animals have a respiratory system, okay, digestive system. So our body organization at its organ and organ systems level. And nuclear membrane, as prokaryotes only, monerans doesn't contain nuclear membrane. Okay, the next factor is nuclear membrane. Nuclear membrane, coming to that, Monera doesn't have nuclear membrane, absent. Absent. Here nuclear membrane present, here present, here is also present, here is also present. Obviously, all eukaryotes have nuclear membrane. So this is the only group, Monera is the only group which doesn't have nuclear membrane, which are prokaryotes. And Protista is the only group which contains eukaryotes but unicellular organisms. Only it is comprised of unicellular organisms. And fungi is the only group which completely filled with organisms which are having chitin in their cell wall, like that. So basically, cell type we discussed. What is the cell type in Monerans? That means bacteria. Cell type is prokaryote, and cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan in the case of bacteria, that is Monera, and Protista. Cell wall present. Fungi is also cell wall present. In animals, cell wall is absent. And nuclear membrane. Except Monerans, all are having nuclear membrane. Body organization. For Monera, it is unicellular, Protista unicellular, fungi. It ranges from unicellular to multicellular, and plant and animalia having complete multicellular organisms. Okay, and in animals and plants, the body organization at its tissue level. Okay, the mode of nutrition. The mode of nutrition here, the Monerans that are bacteria, okay, contains what? The bacteria contains autotrophs and heterotrophs. Okay, bacteria contains some autotrophs and heterotrophs. Kingdom Protists contains, unicellular eukaryotes. Okay, these unicellular eukaryotes which are having nuclear membrane, but all these are single cellular, and nuclear membrane is present. Body organization at its single cell level. Okay, mode of nutrition, some are autotrophs and some are heterotrophs. Coming to the kingdom fungi. Kingdom fungi is all fungi comes under this kingdom fungi. That means these are heterotrophs. Okay, some are saprophytes. That means what we mean by heterotroph? Heterotroph is the mode of nutrition. That means if an organism is not able to synthesize its own food, but it depends upon the other organism for its food, that is what heterotrophy is. And you can also have saprophytes here. Okay, that means organisms depends on the dead and decaying material. So here We can also find some parasites. That means that infects the other organisms. The leaves on the host. So coming to the kingdom plant, all these are autotrophs. All are having photosynthetic pigment. These are multicellular. Okay, eukaryotes. Nuclear membrane is present. Body organization at the tissue level. Okay, all these are autotrophs. That means they have photosynthetic pigment called chlorophyll. Okay, because of the presence of photosynthetic pigment called chlorophyll, they are able to perform photosynthesis and prepare their own food. These are producers in the ecosystem. As they produce food, these are producers, and the other levels of other organisms will generally depends on the plants for the food. That means all remaining are consumers. Okay, kingdom animals. So here are the organisms which may ranges from very small insects to the higher eukaryotes, higher organisms, higher animals like horse, maybe other animals, and human being also. Also comes under this kingdom Animalia. So here all these are heterotrophs. They cannot prepare their own food. They doesn't have photosynthetic pigment. Okay, they depends on the other. So that is what it is. So let us discuss details of kingdom Monera. So kingdom Monera, as we discussed, it consists of prokaryotes such as bacteria. So they are most abundant microorganisms on earth. So these monerans, all bacteria, okay, archaea, all are very, very abundant. You can find millions and trillions of them. We cannot simply calculate how many species are there, how many varieties of bacteria are there. Okay, you cannot simply calculate, and you cannot find out all types of bacteria. Okay, though they visible only through microscope. Okay, with naked eye you cannot see them. So cell structure is simple, but their behavior is complex. So their cell structure is very simple. They might have something like, okay, some cell wall, okay, one plasma membrane, if present, flagella is present. Okay, if it is there, one flagella and some pili, very simple. And DNA is naked and it spreads in the cytoplasm. Okay, and if present extra chromosomal material like plasmid will be present. So very simple, the structure is very simple. No, you cannot find cell organelles, membrane bound cell organelles. Okay, their cell walls are made up of peptidoglycan. So very simple structure, but the behavior is complex because of which they are able to infect higher eukaryotes. They're able to ferment. Okay, they have metabolic diversity. That means they have different ways of showing its metabolic activities. Okay, complex reactions. In some bacteria they are able to decompose the waste material. Okay, so they have very variety of metabolism. So diversity, metabolic diversity, that means they have different metabolic pathways. That means some of them are able to decompose the material, and some are able to fix the nitrogen. Okay, all this because of the metabolic diversity. They have different varieties of enzyme based on the species. Enzymes are different. In one bacteria, you will find one type of metabolisms, and in other bacteria or in other archaebacteria, you will find completely or entirely different set of metabolic reactions. So that is called the metabolic diversity. They almost found everywhere. So wherever you go, you can find bacteria around you. Even they form natural flora of our body. That means, so basically they can even on our skin, on our body, internal to our body, bacteria are there. They are beneficial to us, not they are not harmful. That is, those are called natural flora of the human body. So they vary in their shapes. You can find wherever you go, you can find the bacteria. That means even inside your body, inside your cavities, inside your uh, like oral cavity, you can find in your gut, you can find bacteria. So likewise, you can find wherever. And even if you go different habitats like marine habitat, if you go to the hot spring, you can find some kind of bacteria. Many places you can find bacteria, and they vary in their shapes. Depends on their shape. They could be cocci, okay, bacilli, vibrium, and spirillum. Okay, what based on the shapes you can divide bacteria. So what are cocci? Simply, cocci are circular. And what is bacilli? These are rod shaped bacteria. Okay, and vibrium, comma shaped. Okay, and spirillum. Spirillum is the spiral. Okay, these are the basic shapes possessed by the bacteria, and these are singulars. If many such sorry, here it must be these two are plurals, cocci and bacilli, and singular term is coccus, and here it is bacillus. Okay, bacillus, and this is vibrium, and this is spirillum. That means these are singulars. What are the plural terms for indicating plural? This is cocci, this is bacilli, this is vibrio, and this is spirilla. This is spirilla. So these are the plural terms for coccus, bacillus, vibrio, and spirillum. So here, this is cocci, bacilli, spirilla. Okay. So if they are grouped, if they are aggregated, so many such cocci are aggregated. Okay, that means they accumulated at one place. So these are called staphylococci. Staphylococci is aggregated form of the cocci. And diplococci, if two are grouped. Okay. Okay, like this. That is diplo. Diplo indicates two. And streptococci, if they form chains. These cocci, if they form chains like this, that is streptococci. Okay. If there are two, that is diplococci. If they are forming chains, then that is streptococci. If they are aggregated, then those are called staphylococci. Okay, coming to the bacilli. here is the Cocobacilli. Okay, Cocobacilli means if there's a rod but not very lengthy, small rods. Okay, the length of the rod is less, and those are in between cocci and bacilli. The shape is in between cocci and bacilli, then that is Cocobacilli. And Vibrio is comma shape. Okay, so these are corniform bacilli between comma shape and bacilli. So spirilla, coming to the spirilla, the spring type of shape you can find. Okay, these are the variants. Okay, what is next? So this Monera, how it is again divided, subdivided. Okay, kingdom Monera, we are discussing about kingdom Monera. So what are the different shapes? Cocci, bacilli, vibrio, and spirillum. Okay, so these are prokaryotes, as we already discussed. Okay, prokaryotes. These are unicellular. Okay, maybe autotrophs or heterotrophs. Okay, the cell wall is present. Okay, cell wall is present. What else? Nuclear membrane is present. And here it includes two major groups, Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. So this Monera is subdivided into Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. Here the term indicates archae. Archaebacteria means ancient bacteria, and Eubacteria, Eu means true. These are true bacteria, and Archaebacteria is the ancient bacteria. That means these are earliest, oldest known organisms on earth. Okay, and Eubacteria is the true bacteria. All bacteria will comes under this true bacteria. So Archaebacteria, they are oldest and ancient bacteria. These are oldest known organisms to the earth. So on earth, first Archaebacteria are formed. Okay, they appeared 3.6 billion years ago. Okay, not recently, but 3.6 billion years ago, they found fossils of them. These fossils of Archaebacteria are belongs to the age which is 3.6 billion years ago. So these are most primitive organisms, okay, that found in most extreme habitats. So that is the difference. All these Archaebacteria are not found in common habitats. They generally found in extreme habitats like very hot, okay, very cold. That is what the extreme habitat is. And also kind of anaerobic habitats, that means deprived of oxygen, the habitat or the place which is deprived of oxygen, and maybe under high acid concentration, salt concentration. All these are extreme extreme environments. So in that extreme habitats, such as lack of oxygen, high salt concentration, high acid concentration of acidic pH, and extreme temperature. It may be low temperature or high temperature. So these two variants can be also there in which you can find the archaebacteria. So here they don't have peptidoglycan. So this is the exception. So archaebacteria cell walls are not made up of peptidoglycan. So because these are having some more complex cell walls. Okay, the complexity of cell wall is much higher, so that they can survive through the harsh conditions. That is how it survive in the harsh conditions. Okay, the cell walls around them, around archaebacteria, are so strong. Okay, very complex, so that they can survive, okay, in the harsh conditions. So here the archaebacteria is again divided into three groups. Okay, one is based on the mode of nutrition. Okay. Okay, based on the mode of nutrition, we can divide archaebacteria into subgroups. Okay. So mode of nutrition, we can subdivide archaebacteria into three major groups. One is methanogen, and halophile, and thermophile. Okay, what is methanogen? Gen means something to generate, something to produce. Here, what is it producing? What are they producing? Methanogen. The term indicates these are methane producers. So basically, archaebacteria could be a methanogen, halogen, or thermophile. Halogen, halophile. What do we mean by halophile? Phile is the term relates to loving. That means these are high salt. Halo means the term indicates the salt concentration. Okay. Halo means related to salt. Halophile means the organisms which loves the salt concentration. That means they present at higher salt concentrations. Okay. So high salt concentration they present. And thermophile, as indicates, thermo is something related to temperature. Okay. Temperature, and phile is loving towards it. That means these are high temperature habitats, high or low temperature also. So here methanogens, as I already discussed, methanogens are the bacteria which produce methane gas. That means they use CO2, H2, and nitrogen, and they produce methane. They give off methane. Okay, they utilize these things and they release CH3, that is methane. So here what is the beauty of methanogen? What is the importance of methanogen? So here they can be used to produce methane gas. Okay, beneficial to human. So they can be used as used in methane gas production, because they generally present in kind of marshy areas. Okay, even in animal guts. That means ruminant animals like cattle. inside the cattle, you can find some methanogens. So those are natural flora to cattle. So they present in animal gut. So there they may help the animal to digest something, and also termite. So inside the termites also you can find these kind of methanogen. Okay, archaebacteria, that is methanogen. So here what is the difference? What is the importance? They helps the or animals that live in which they live, okay, the host animal, to digest or help with the metabolic activities, okay, that may be digestion of something, okay, like that. So basically they also present in the animal dung. So thereby from this dung they produce methane. These are all, they are decomposers. So they also helps to decompose the sewage treatment. They also helps to decompose the sewage. So these two are benefits out of methanogen bacteria. So these are decomposers, so they can be used in sewage treatment, and they are gas producers, so methane gas would be produced. So what are halophiles? Okay, here is the example: Methanococcus jannaschi. Okay, so this is the example of methanogen, Methanococcus jannaschi. So here it is isolated from deep sea, and it was the first archaean that was sequenced. What we mean by sequence? The DNA is sequenced, the genome is sequenced. So what are the nucleic acids present in the DNA? What is the how they are arranged? That means what is the sequential order of nucleic acids? That means the DNA. So the sequential order of nucleotides present in the DNA is sequenced. That means that is studied. So this is the Methanococcus jannaschi is the first methane producing bacteria and first archaebacteria that was sequenced. That's genome was sequenced. And what is halophile? Halophile lives in high salt concentration. As I told you, it is halophile. That means it loves the high salt concentration. So normally they require 10 times more salt concentration than what is present in oceans. Okay, seawater, more than seawater, they require 10 times more higher salt concentration to survive. Generally, some of them also need 30% of salt concentration around them. So if they, if some of the halophiles, they cannot survive under under normal conditions without salt concentration, normal water, they cannot be survived. So such extreme habitat loving organisms are the halophiles. So here they may found in Dead Sea, where the salt concentration is very high, so that even a man can be floated simply. Okay. Great Salt Lake, salt evaporation ponds, where the salt will be produced from the seawater, that kind of salt evaporation ponds you can find the halophiles, because these are high salt concentration loving organisms. Okay, and the other thing is thermoacidophiles. As the name indicates, either they like high temperature and acid concentration. They found in hot sulfur springs. Okay, hot sulfur springs and heat. These are either heat or cold lovers, they prefer temperatures above 60 degrees, okay, not less than that, either above 60 degrees or even higher, okay, as cold as near or below freezing point, okay, very low, either very high, maybe maybe more than 60 degrees, okay. Okay, maybe more than 60 degrees or maybe less than 0 degrees. Okay, that kind of temperature, high or low temperature, that is extreme temperatures they like. Hot sulfur springs. So these are some of the habitats we can find the thermoacidophiles, like hot sulfur springs, deep sea, hyperthermal vents. So here in that places under deep sea we can find hypothermal vents. These are the places where the temperatures are very very high. Even under sea water you can find very high temperature having vents. So that kind of places you can find the thermoacidophiles. Black smokers, geothermal power plants, even in the power plants where the temperatures are very high, you can find these thermoacidophiles. Also in ocean waters around Antarctica, that means this is the place where the temperatures are very low, so and even polar ice caps. So less than freezing point you can find the temperatures, and where you can find these thermoacidophiles. So what are the examples? Thermus aquaticus. So this is the bacteria which present in the high temperature, Pyrococcus furiosus. So these two are the examples. So next comes the eubacteria. So we discussed Archaebacteria, we completed under Monera. There are two groups, Archaebacteria and eubacteria. So we already completed Archaebacteria. So Archaebacteria consists of three groups, okay, methanogens, halophiles and thermoacidophiles. So based on the type of habitat. And next comes the eubacteria. That means U means here true bacteria. So here U means true. They also refer to true bacteria and are very abundant. So where these are very abundant, millions and trillions of them, very variety of them. Okay, they causes diseases, but not all of them. Okay, they you can find them in human infections as well, okay, but some bacteria are also useful in many ways, like even fermentation for making curd, okay, for making curd and all you can find the bacteria, involvement of bacteria. That is what the fermentation is. Even for production of alcohol and antibiotic production. So some of the bacteria like penicillin is different. So some of the bacteria is useful in production of antibiotics and nutrient recycling. Okay, nutrient recycling means some decomposition function. Okay, decomposition of complex things into simple forms so that the nutrients will come back to the environment. Okay, even in soil, even on water and air also, the nutrient decomposition, that means the complex substances will be broken down into simple forms, simple substances. So the nutrients, maybe nitrogen, maybe hydrogen and oxygen, that kind of nutrients will go come back to the atmosphere. And decomposition is also present, the decomposition, and they are also present as a normal flora. As I already told you, normal flora is the bacteria that present in the animal or plant. That means here these doesn't cause harm to the organism in which they live, but they are inhabitants. Even in human gut, you can find the bacteria, so which doesn't cause the any kind of infection or disease, but in return, instead it will help the human to show its metabolic activities and some other ways. So this eubacteria may be involved in all these functions, beneficial functions like fermentations, okay, antibiotic production, nutrient recycling, decomposition, and they also present as normal flora inside our body. So their cell walls, the cell walls are made up of peptidoglycan and teichoic acid. So these are the major components of the cell wall. Here they have two groups, cyanobacteria and eubacteria. So here the eubacteria so kingdom Monera divided into archaebacteria and eubacteria. Here archaebacteria consist of three groups, methanogens, okay, methanogens, what are the other remaining groups? Thermophils and what is the other group? I simply forgot. Halophiles, okay, high salt concentration. Okay, methanogens, halophile, and thermophiles, thermoacidophiles or thermophiles simply. So here eubacteria is subdivided into, okay, cyanobacteria and bacteria. So what are the components of cyanobacteria? Here cyanobacteria, these are commonly known as blue-green algae. So these are very simple forms. Okay, these are not actually true algae, but these are called as blue-green algae, considered previously as blue-green algae, and they appeared. These are very primitive primary organisms on Earth. These are appeared around 3.2 billion years ago. Okay, before 3.2 billion years ago, these cyanobacteria appeared, and they changed the Earth atmosphere at that time. That means before the life started, there used to be no oxygen at all. So there were no oxygen in the atmosphere. There is no oxygen at all. So after the blue-green algae appeared on the Earth, they changed. They started producing O2. So this O2 started releasing out. So the Earth atmosphere is changed from anaerobic to aerobic. Aerobic. So that is what the cyanobacteria's importance is. So after the cyanobacteria appeared, they performed for kind of photosynthesis. So they started producing oxygen, and the Earth, early atmosphere on Earth is completely changed to anaerobic to aerobic.
मैम केमिस्ट्री क्लास है मैम.
हेलो,
केमिस्ट्री क्लास है मैम.
अभी केमिस्ट्री क्लास है आपका?
हाँ मैम.
वो कैसा है? अभी मेरा क्लास चल रहा है ना, आपको भी ज्वाइन करना है क्या?
हाँ मैम.
Okay, let me see who else are here. One minute. Anybody is here? So you are the one who joined. So okay. But actually, the time given for me is 6 to 8. Okay. Go to your chemistry class. Then we'll discuss in the next class. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.